از اون ور
این آخرین نبرده پهلوی برمیگرده این آخرین نبرده پهلوی برمیگرده
For a few weeks now, I've been trying to get somebody to come on who will speak about what is happening in Iran. I have a few Iraqi friends that I wrote a play for. I was trying to get through them. Finally, we got close. But today, we have a very, very brave young woman coming on called Malika. I'll have help with her second name. But what she told me now is Malika means little queen or queen of the ants. So let's bring her on and have a chat. Good evening.
Hi, Michael. Hello, how are you?
Thank you for doing this.
Thank
Now,
you.
first off, before we start, how long have you lived in Australia? Were you born in Australia or did you come from Iran?
No, I came from Iran when I was about 13 years old, and I arrived in Australia first in 2011.
When you first arrived, could you speak any English at all?
No, I learned it all here.
You learned it. Wow, you learned it all here.
Yeah, so you have to excuse me if I make a couple of mistakes along the way, but yeah.
Believe me, you'll be excused.
Yeah.
Can I also ask, what was it, before we get to that, what was it like as a culture shock to go from an Iranian, culture to an Australian?
If I wanted to say it, I guess short, it was good and bad. The good obviously being that now you live in a country that you're no longer oppressed. You're no longer living under that heavy terrorist regime. But then it was a bit of a sad culture shock because you don't have people that speak the same language as you. You don't have your friends anymore, and you have to start your whole new life in a whole new country. So.
Yeah, including, I know a lot of teenagers at 13, you're trying to just fit into the crowd.
Yeah.
And here you are trying to fit in the crowd, you can't even speak the language. So that must have been really tough.
It really was, but I'm glad that I got to a point now that I can be the voice of my people back home.
Fantastic. Let's talk about the oppression then that you escaped. What was the oppression you escaped then? What could you just explain it to an Australian audience?
Look, as a young 13-year-old girl living in Iran, it was basically hell. You were constantly oppressed at school level. You were constantly oppressed in the community. Just the government has made it a living hell for everyone, not just young girls, but girls in particular are quite oppressed in Iran, even at that age.
Let's talk about that. When you use the word oppressed, could you explain a bit further, like what is an everyday? How would the oppression manifest?
Well, the thing is that, first of all, as a 13-year-old girl, you can't even dress the way you want. They have that much control over you that the moment you leave the front door of your house, you are now all of a sudden under this oppression that you feel like all the eyes are on you. And first of all, you can't even dress the way you want. You can't speak the way you want. Girls shouldn't be going these places. Oh, girls can't be doing this. Oh, girls can't be behaving like this. So you're always under this, shell that they created for you as a society, unfortunately, under this regime, that you just never feel like you can reach your full potential as a woman in that society. But like I said, I'm only speaking as a woman. This doesn't mean it's only women.
I just want to speak it from your point of view to start, and we'll get to the rest of the people, but just from your point of view, which will really bring it home. So what would have happened to you if you decided to dress the way you wanted?
I actually have a very, very interesting story to tell you about this. I remember one day, it was during my final exams at one of my high school or school levels that I was at. And we were forced to wear, the long covering that we call chador, but it's the long black one that you basically cover yourself with. And I remember during school years, you had the freedom to not wear your school uniform, which was worse than the chador itself. But you could wear the chador and go to school and do your exam and go home, basically. I wore a slightly yellow dress, not dress, but the appropriate school uniform kind of dress, under my chador, under my fully black chador. They sent me back home. Can you believe it? They didn't let me sit the final exam because I was wearing yellow under my black covering. That's how women are oppressed, that education came before their religion. So they were happy for me to fail my school, but they weren't happy to let me into the examination room just because I was wearing a touch of yellow. It had nothing to do with the material. It had nothing to do with how much it was covered. They just didn't like the color yellow on a young, bright woman, That's the kind of oppression we're talking about. So education came before their, religious beliefs. So
compliance was number one. Education and everything else number two, number three.
For sure. At that moment, imagine you've put all your focus to go into the examination room and do this exam. And now I'm finding myself crying vigorously on the bus, trying to catch the bus back home so I can change out of this to something dark colored so then I can go back. But it was too late by the time I went back. And they said, sorry, you can't sit the final exam. So.
My God. And so how did you feel on the bus going back? How did you feel?
I felt objectified. I felt like, my value, my knowledge that in that school only meant that, as long as you're dressing properly, then that should be fine. But what about my knowledge? I'm a cardiac sonographer here in Australia right now. So imagine my potential back home would have been impacted by just wearing a touch of yellow. So they would have, condemned me from doing certain things. They would have probably not allowed me to go to a different school because they would have made it on the report that, this is the way she behaved. And I would have probably missed out on a lot of opportunities just because of the way I dressed.
Can I ask you, why did you decide to risk it and wear the yellow dress?
I thought that as a 13, 12-year-old, however age I was back then, I thought that, look, I'm still covering myself with the black, I'm sure they're going to be okay. I'm still covered. My head's still covered. My arms are covered. My legs are covered. Everything is covered.
So just your face was on show.
So it's just my face showing, basically. And I had held the covering all the way like that. But, when you want to go in, she just lifted my black dress, the black covering to look at what I was wearing underneath. And then she goes, turn around. And I was like,
they checked what you were wearing underneath.
Yeah, they were checking what I was wearing. Yeah, because I was holding it so, tight. They're like, what are you wearing underneath? And I was like, nothing. Like, I'm just, wearing my appropriate clothing. And then they lift it and then they're like, no, you can't go in like this. And I was like, ma'am, I'm still covered. Like, I'm still, covered. I'm not showing any skin. They were like, no, go back home. Go back home and change. I was like, it's half an hour before the exam starts. How do you expect me to go back home and change? They're like, no, you can't enter. Go back home and change. So
what about the young men? What were they allowed to wear?
So the schools were separate, or still are separate in Iran. So we don't know what they're like at school. But I know for a fact that men are not allowed to wear short sleeves. They're not allowed to wear shorts. So even men have to be covered completely.
So men have to. So it's not just things. Men have to address them. So not wear short sleeves. No. Wow.
Right now, if you get on a plane and go to Iran wearing shorts, they're not going to let you into the country. So you can't wear shorts. Yeah. So this is the kind of oppression you're living in. Imagine Iran gets more than 40 degrees in summer. And imagine the layers us girls and even men have to wear, dealing with this kind of temperature. The amount of heat strokes I've seen at school of these young girls just literally not even able to put up with this heat stroke just because of the amount of things they're wearing. And they just didn't care. They were like, no, this is the school uniform. This is what you need to comply with. And even outside, just in the streets. Like, don't look at Iran now that you can see, maybe a few girls are showing a bit more hair now. Like, when I got out of Iran, it was terrible. Like, I was seen outside of school with my mum and I had my head covering, but this is again me as an 11-year-old. So as an 11-year-old
11 years
child,
old now. Okay. Yeah.
my principal of that school saw me on a weekend crossing the road with my mom, and she asked me to meet her at the principal's office on the following day that I went to school. She was like, "Why were you dressed like that outside of school?" And I was like, "Excuse me, it's outside of school." They were like, "No, it's unacceptable." And so they made my mom to come to school, and they lectured my mom on how to buy clothing for me so that I dress more appropriately outside. So
Wow. Can
yeah.
you talk of other oppressions that you saw? Was there, and still, because we're seeing violence now, was there violence then or just the threat of violence? If you didn't
I
mind.
was quite young when I will talk you guys through the, I guess, multiple uprisings that had happened in Iran, and I was
Mm.
quite young for most of them. I only remember like seeing things on TV, and I was obviously very, very young, so my parents would never take me to these kind of protests. They I think have attended themselves, like my cousins that were much older than me, they had attended, but I never went to any of these, so I never saw any of these kind of violences. But I saw, I guess, enough in terms of their religious, shows that they put on every year or every now and then for the Ramadan and all those other like religious shows that they put on, and what the men did. It was horrific to watch as a child, like the like I'm not religious at all. So when I talk about this, I'm really hoping I'm not offending anyone who is religious. But when you come
They'll
from a
survive.
country, that you're being oppressed by religion, you do tend to resent it a lot. And
Yeah.
remember, like during they have this ritual where men get massive swords, and they literally walk in groups in the streets in front of everyone, and they cut their own heads with the swords, trying to feel the same pain that their prophet did 1,400 years ago or something. So they're trying to pay respect to their prophet who apparently died while they were praying, and then the enemy put the knife in their head and killed them. So they replicate that every year. They used to when I was there. I don't know if it's illegal now or whether they're still going on. I don't know about it. But like I remember, like sometimes walking in the streets, and all I can see is just blood everywhere on the streets, and you can see the scalp of all these men that are just, you can see right through them. And this is the kind of brainwashing they do to people, and the kind of brainwashing they do to the community, believing that this is all normal, but it's not. This is not a normal way of practicing your religion, or this is not a normal way of raising awareness about something. This is just true horrendous brainwashing of people. And then when you brainwash people, then you can oppress them by that brainwashing. So it's just a cycle that will just never end.
Did you get to talk about this with your friends at the time, like in secret groups where they brave, or did you have to just with your family, or did you have to keep it all in?
These things, like I said, I was a child, when I was growing up in that environment. For us, it was almost starting to become normal to see these things. But then when you come out of Iran and you're looking at these things, you're like, none of this is normal. So
Mm.
back then there was not a lot of, and again, you're talking about a 10, 11-year-old, even much younger. So when I got out of Iran, I
Mm.
was about 13. So at that age, I wasn't, really aware enough of really what's going on until you really take a step back and you say, okay, this is messed up. Like
Yeah.
this is a new way of brainwashing people. But until you're in it, you don't, until you get out, you don't realize.
Yeah. But see, for us, for the last 47 years, Iran has just been a mystery.
Mm,
And the Americans and basically all the West saying that Iran is about to kill us. This is the enemy of the people.
mhm,
They're going to start nuclear war. We can't let them have nukes, and just going on and on and on. And so we had a perverted view of Iran too. I interviewed a woman recently, like last year, I think she was from Germany. She rode her motorbike through Iran during
mhm.
the COVID era, and she said the country is beautiful, the
Yep,
people are gorgeous,
yep.
and but there were things she was seeing that concerned her. But she said that the people themselves were beautiful. Would
Yes,
you agree with that?
absolutely. True Iranian people, not the government that's running us, true Iranian people are probably one of the most heartwarming, like, warm-blooded people that you will ever see in your life. Like, I remember when we first arrived here in Australia, when I would, go to school with my brother, would come back and there would be a complete stranger in our house. And I'll be like, Mom, who's this? They'll be like, oh, they were just walking. We invited them in for tea. Like, this is just the culture we brought up with, that we love everyone. We love all human beings that show us respect, and we show that respect back. We are always about embracing other people, and we very kind people, and we have a beautiful country, or what's left of it. What they're ruining our country every single day, as it goes by. But Iran
Yeah.
is an absolutely beautiful country. It's very historical. The agriculture is amazing. Like the architecture is to die for. Like it's a beautiful country.
And
Unfortunately, it's
and it's also I just wanted to show you this too. It's also ancient. You
it's
know,
very
it's
yeah
and do you
yeah.
sense that that sense of history where you are? I mean, there must be buildings around you that are thousands of years old, some of them, surely.
You mean in Iran or?
In Iran, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get to see a lot of Iran when I was old enough to, I guess, appreciate it. I did a lot of traveling when I was younger. Like my parents would take us traveling when we were much younger. But
Yeah.
as things got worse and, the economy got more, I guess, harder to deal with, there was not a lot of traveling for us, unfortunately, within Iran. But there is, like,
So you weren't
if
allowed to travel, or it was
we're
too
allowed to travel.
expensive?
It was just the economy was just so terrible that it was just so expensive.
Oh,
it,
I see.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to show you a picture here. This is from the 1970s. This is a
yeah,
1970 before the revolution. So
yeah.
were you aware as you were growing up that there was a time when this was the norm for
Yes,
Iranian women?
my father was about 17 years old when the revolution happened, so
Yeah.
he would always tell us about how Iran was. And in fact, I will actually talk about what Iran used to be like today for anyone
Sure.
who's
Go ahead.
interested to know who we were, and where we came from and got to this point that we are now. But yeah, so
Yeah.
Iran used to be incredibly westernized. It used to be incredibly, in terms of the economy, it was doing really well. In terms of just like the wealth, it was doing well. In terms of the quality of life for its people, it was doing well. So don't look at the Iran now that is basically an enemy of the world. Iran used to have very good allies with a lot of the countries around the world. So, which I will talk about all of that shortly. But yeah, Iran used to be beautiful.
Well, it used to be because I'm 60 now, so almost 60. And when I was young, it was the Shah of Iran was in power, and he was quite a popular thing worldwide. You know, he was handsome, and I wasn't in Iran, so I can't tell how the Iranians saw him. But any idea from your father how the revolution began? What started it, and why uh, this religion fundamentalist group managed to take over such a country?
Um, I reckon the read is that people had a lot of freedom during his time in terms of freedom
Mm,
of speech, freedom of beliefs, but they almost got too comfortable with where they were, where you know during that time when Shah was running Iran, all these mullahs started to grow under his nose. But obviously Shah, being religious himself as well, he wasn't against them that much. And I guess that's where the problem started, that they started to abuse religion. They started to use religion as a way of trying to brainwash people into thinking that what the Shah is doing is not right. And when you're living too comfortable in your life, I mean, my grandfather used to work for the railways, the only person working in the family with maybe 5 6 children, the only income provider of the family. He used to be able to buy a 3-story house, provide for the entire family, be able to save up. That was the kind of quality of life that people had back then, that with only
Wow.
one income, you were able to provide for your family.
Well,
So
they look prosperous, I have to say.
yes,
You know,
yes.
they have the
So
relaxed sort of demeanor of unimpressed people who look prosperous.
yeah, so I
That's
guess
true.
a lot of propaganda started during that time, and you know, every person has their own fault, but the one thing that I'm really proud of with the Shah was that he never intended to harm its own people. So when they took to the street and say, "We don't want you anymore," if you see the interviews that he's doing, he's tearing up. He's incredibly disappointed in the people that almost, we can say, backstabbed him for everything. Like I'm gonna talk through everything that the Shah did and his father, for Iran, and you will realize the tremendous amount of effort that this family has put in for Iran, only to be backstabbed like this. And the mullahs took over, and then they started brainwashing people. That there were a few famous lines going around that, "Oh, you're paying 30 cents for a bus trip, we'll make it free. Oh, you're paying 10 cents a liter for oil, we'll make it free." And anyone living comfortably, they'll be like, "You know what? Why do I pay that much? I'm gonna go to the streets and say, now we want the mullahs because they're going to give us everything for free." So, but it's a lot of different stories coming out about that time and what happened, but it was a lot of propaganda, and obviously the Shah didn't want to cause a bloodbath like they're doing now. So he was like, "You know what, you don't want me, that's fine, I'm out of here." But I think it's in one of the interviews that the person is asking Shah, they're like, "What do you think the people of Iran will think of you 50 years down the track? And, do you think that they will regret what they've done?" And he, vaguely remembering, he goes, "It's not even going to take them 50 years. And look at us, we're 47 years in, and we've been crying out for help since almost 1999. So
Yeah.
it's, people are realizing that that revolution was nothing but a huge mistake in the history. And we are doing everything we can to reverse this mistake, because it's eating us up alive. So
I just want to show you some pictures here based on what you said as a young schoolgirl. You couldn't wear the dress underneath the official uniform. This is what got me. These are girls lighting
yeah,
cigarettes.
yeah,
I love this image. There's a defiance there. Do you relate to this, the freedom and the defiance of what they're doing?
yeah. Like, when I look at the image like this, is that I feel like these kind of images are so powerful. It's like, it's almost a slap in the face of Khamenei. It's almost, saying that a girl that young is, it's just so powerful. It's almost, you can't even describe what you're saying, but it's just,
Yeah.
to me, that's so powerful, that you are nothing but ashes that, I'm just going to light my cigarette with. So
Yeah.
to me, that's very powerful, that, one day we've got to a point where people are lighting up their cigarettes with your, burning up fire, burning in fire picture. So it's very powerful, in my opinion. So well done to all these young
Yeah,
girls.
there's
Great.
I did it's that's what moved me. There was the initial images, some of them they made into AI posters, but it was just a symbol of freedom and defiance. You're
Yeah,
thinking these girls will probably all end up being killed. I hate to say
yeah,
it, but they're still doing it. And the anything uh the other thing that I saw was the brutality
yeah,
of the violence doing now. Are you
yeah,
able to talk about the brutality you're aware of happening now? Do you
absolutely.
have any connections with Iran?
I do have some connections with Iran. Obviously, I'm not going to be naming them because of
Of
safety
course.
reasons, but I do have connections with Iran. I do have firsthand news of what's happening. So what I'm going to share with you is all true firsthand. There's no news propaganda here. There's no, me making up stories. This is literally the news that's coming out of Iran. And
Yeah, great.
what's really, I guess, important for everyone listening to this and everyone who's going to watch this video is that they need to realize that this is not the first time that Iranians have took to the streets. And it's not the
Yeah.
first time since the 1979 revolution, that you see Iranians, demanding for freedom out in the streets. So some examples could be, in July 1999, we had the protest that started with the university students. Then we had the 2009 Green Movement. I remember the 2009 Green Movement, watching it on the TV. Then we had the 2017 and 2018 national-wide protest. Then we had the November 2019, which is referred to as Bloody Aban. Aban is the month of November. So they called it the Bloody November because more than 1,500 people were massacred during that protest, which then was a lot of numbers. But don't look at it right now when you're comparing it with 40,000 people. Back then, it was labeled as the Bloody Aban because of the number of people they killed, even though there were some news coming out that the numbers were actually well into the 5,000s, but confirmed was about 1,500 people were massacred. Then you had the 2022 and 2023 Mahsa Amini, or the Women Life Freedom Campaign that started, which resulted in more than probably 2,000 to 3,000 mass executions of Iranians that happened. So they would.
How would they execute the people?
So basically, there were things called, I think, 3-minute trials, where
3-minute trials.
Yeah. So one of the stories that came out was that one person was captured by the regime for setting a rubbish bin on fire during the protest, as you see on the streets. So not harming a single soul, just setting a rubbish bin on fire as a, protest. He was then labeled as, I think it's called Maharabe, which means war against God. And war against God is an immediate execution. There's no, you can't defend yourself. There's nothing that you can do. It's an immediate execution. If they give you that title, that means you're immediately getting executed with,
just to clarify, there's no defense lawyer. There's there's no appeal system. You're just decreed that you're an enemy of God and they kill you.
Yeah, that's what a 3-minute trial was. So from the time you entered the court, from the time you were captured, then you would enter the court, okay, war against God, execution, next. So you don't get a last call with your family members. You don't get a right to phone a lawyer. Even if the lawyer was provided, it was one of those, lawyers that the government provides so that they can, as a mock lawyer, just to pretend that you had a lawyer, but the lawyer was also working with the government. So really, what's the point? Yeah. So a lot of them, like mass executions, to the point where they had to dug a massive hole and dump all the bodies in there. Like we had, a lot of girls like Nika Shakarami, where they literally, I think, threw her off the building. All her bones were broken. They ended up raping her. They ended up taking her dead body out in the desert. They didn't even let the family know where they buried the children. And if the family was to hold a mourning, all the IRGC and all the regime terrorist members would come into your mourning and separate everyone and not let you actually hold a mourning for your child. So they would, open up the stomachs of individuals that they have captured, and they would sell their organs. Like, I'm telling you, you wouldn't believe that this is happening in 2026. That was during Mahsa Amini. That was during the Women Life Freedom Campaign, where they basically, mass executed a lot of people. You would see mothers screaming outside of prisons when they were told that their son or the daughter was getting executed that day. They were begging, nothing. So all they do is they kill. They let you know, hello, yeah, we've killed your child. If you want the body, you can't you can't hold the mourning. They would hold forced confessions from the families, saying that, oh yeah, my son was with the regime and the protesters killed him. So they wanted to pretend that all the protesters were killing these individuals, that that we had outside protesters killing these individuals, and they were all with the government, and the poor government is losing all these people. But it's not. All of the confessions that came out of Iran were forced confessions. So they said that if you ever want the bodies returned, you need to come into the TV and announce that your son or daughter was part of the Basij group, or was part of the IRGC, and it was brutally killed by all these protesters. So anyway, that was the whole Women Life Freedom Campaign. And then
so that was called Women Life Freedom Campaign. And you just said then that they threw them off the buildings, broke all their bones, and then still raping them before if they're still alive.
Yeah. There is a thing in
so they're raping someone who's all just been broken up, can't do anything.
Yeah.
So it's just a defiling of the person.
basically. So one of the things that they really believe in, as this regime believes in, is that all virgin girls go to heaven. So if they captured someone and they knew that she was a virgin, they would rape her before killing her to make sure that she doesn't go to heaven. So this is the mindset that we are living under in this regime. So yeah, so that was the Woman Life Freedom.
And do you think, you have to give this poor old Aussie a moment, do you think that the other reason they do that is to terrify you? Look what we've done to this girl. If you step out of line, we will do it to you. So before you wore your yellow dress to school, you knew that this was possible, that they could do this brutal stuff.
Look, as that 11-year-old, no. Because like I said, I was very young when all of this was happening. This Massa Amini stuff is all, you know, when I was here and I was seeing all this brutality. But I'm sure if you ask someone older, like my dad or like, you know, my cousins that were in that green movement or, you know, part of the university students, that I was born in 1997 and the first, you know, event happened in 1999. So I was only 2 years old. But if you ask any of them, I can guarantee you they will be able to let you know that, yes, this was definitely true, that they knew that this was definitely happening when they were taken to the streets, but they made that decision anyway.
But that amount of horrific violence and murder, slaughter, genocide, that must be in the mood of the country. Surely people can't walk around like that never happened. Surely that must hang over the country soul like a cloud. Am I right, or do people just get on with their lives and move on?
Sorry, you cut out in the last section. What was the question in the last section?
Oh, I'm just saying that that amount of oppression and violence, does that hang over the mood of the country like an oppressive cloud?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Like, I haven't been back to Iran since I came here. I never stepped foot in that country until to this day. I've never been back to Iran, but I've had friends that have gone to Iran. I've had, you know, I speak to my relatives back home, and they can, like, you can see the mood. You can see that everyone feels depressed. You know, you can see that there is a famous, I guess, saying that I've heard a lot in regards to the people of Iran, is that if you want to kill a young person without killing them, just take their hope away. You know, just take their hope away. That's it. Like, you kill them without killing them. And that's the story of every young person living in Iran right now. They don't have any hope. The economy is terrible. There is no, you know, proper healthcare system. There is no proper educational system. There is no, you know, promise of getting a, you know, degree, or there's no promise of being able to find a proper job. So the government has literally ran its roots so deep that you either have to be with the government to get proper jobs or get anywhere in this country, or that you simply starve to death. So as a young person,
comply or die. Comply or die.
Basically. Yeah. So this December or late December, early January protest that came about, which is actually, I think, labeled as the Revolution of the Lion and the Sun, referring to the original Iranian flag itself. This is not something that just came, you know, spurt out of the ground. This is just all these build up, you know, since 1979, where people are just, you know, maybe you could silence someone of a much older age because they can be like, oh, you know, I've lived my life. It doesn't matter even if the last 10 years of it is under this regime, so be it, you know. But young people, when you take their hope away, you know, young people are growing up in a country that they don't have any future in that country. You know, you have to get a loan to be able to, you know, get a car. You buying a house, forget about that. Like, you can't even afford to buy a house. You can barely afford to put, you know, bread on your plate. So these people, these young people growing up in this country, they need education, they need healthcare system. What happens when they fall in love? They need to be able to live. They need to be able to provide for that family. So they don't have any of that. So when you see these protesters coming out, It's not just over the head coverings, where a lot of people, mistook the Women Life Freedom campaign as a feminist movement. It wasn't. Yes, it was over a girl, tragically losing her life because she wasn't covering her head. But this is not a feminist movement. This is a global movement for women, children, men, young boys, for love of God. It's a movement for animals. Like, the animals are not safe in Iran either. Like, there's so many animal cruelty. Like, I mean, when you think about it as a whole, it's the entire country suffering. So this.
Can you just explain a bit why what happens with the animals?
Oh, I get very emotional about this. I shouldn't have brought it up because I have two dogs
No,
myself.
no.
But
We're here for the
mass
truth.
killings of dogs, because dogs are apparently what do you call it? Disgusting, or they're what we call najes. So they're unclean and they're unholy for this regime. So when they see dogs, if they see you walking your dog, they will literally get your dog and kill it in front of you, or they like take it away and they're like, "No, you can't have dogs." So I don't want to get into this too much because I have two beautiful dogs myself, and every time I think about this, it genuinely aches my heart. But no one's safe. Under this regime, no one is safe. So when you see people protesting outside, it's not just about the head coverings. It's about the quality of life, which is non-existent. It's about the freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom of what to wear, freedom of what to think, freedom of what to believe.
So they want to be in your head, telling you what to think.
Yeah. And when we think about just the most recent uprising, 36.5 thousand people were killed in 2 days. In 2 days. And when I say 2 days, the protest only happened at night. So when you put 2 nights together, it's really 24 hours. So 36,500 people confirmed, which I'm sure it's way more than that. This is just the confirmed. God only knows how many more people. I'm sure it's in the hundreds of thousands. But even if you just think about 36,500 people that lost their lives in just 2 days, this is the number one human crisis of this century alone. It's so bad. This massacre is so bad that people are comparing it to the Holocaust. They're comparing Khamenei with Hitler. And when you think about the number of, when they put the numbers for the comparison, you see that Hitler killed less people per minute than Khamenei. So you are dealing with a modernized Hitler, and no one is talking about it. Not a single media
talking about it. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm reaching out. I just want to understand, because I can't find any information anywhere of any significance.
Every Iranian is asking this question right now. Where is UNICEF? Where is the United Nations? Where are the reporters? Where are the human activists? Where are they right now? Do people in Iran not matter? Are they not human? Were they not fathers, mothers, brothers, or sisters of anyone? Do their lives matter? So where are you guys? Here in Brisbane alone, we held a protest just last Saturday, and more than 20 people came up to the microphone and said, "I would like to say the name of my loved one who lost their life in this protest." More than 20 people from a small city like Brisbane, but that only has probably 5,000-6,000 people, Iranians. At least 20 people in that protest came up to the microphone and said, "I've lost my loved one." I had to attend a mourning last week here in Brisbane for a close friend of mine for losing his cousin, which was more like a brother to him, Ruzbe Safari. If I tell you the way they killed this young man, you would not believe.
I want you to tell us. We want the truth. We don't.
He was shot with a pellet gun 200 times. He was shot with a pellet gun. When they took an x-ray of his chest, you could see more than 200 wounds in his body. He was also shot with a shotgun, and he was also stabbed. How many weapons do you need to kill one person? How many? Were they just trialing out their weapons on this one person? There are videos coming out of Iran where in less than a 5-minute video, more than 300 to 400 shots are fired in less than 5 minutes. So when I tell you 36,000, more than 36, almost 40,000 people were killed in 2 days, this is how they killed people. They just opened live ammunition. They just opened, military-grade weapons. They used chemical weapons on people. This is no joke. We are talking about 2026. where a country is killing its own people with chemical weapons, with military grade weapons, and no one's talking about it. We don't hear a single
Let's talk about the
news
chemical
covering
weapons.
this.
So what, they're just spraying the protesters with chemical weapons, or they take them alone?
I heard that, and there were a lot of pictures and videos coming out of this as well, was people covered in PPE with their, the full-on masks, and they're holding this, what looks like maybe a spray or something, and they're just spraying it on the protesters. So, there are stories that when they capture people, they pretend to let them go, but when they captured, they inject them with something so that when they release, almost not even 2 days after, they die of a heart attack. So, just how many creative ways are they coming up with to slaughter people in 2026? And no one's talking about it. There are not a single activist you will see on TV talking about this absolute massacre.
I understand. It boggles the mind, and this is evil. This is just pure evil. I mean, this is what you're up against. So I think when you look at the hijab, or the head covering, as you say, it's not just about that, but that's the symbol of it. It's the symbol that a beautiful young woman can't show her beauty to the world, which is what women love doing. Why not? You're looking for love. You're young. Hey, you're a beautiful thing. It's a natural thing to do. All nations do it. That allow.
Yeah, it's incredibly unfortunate that this is happening in Iran, and literally no one's talking about it. Like when I was talking to one of the sources in Iran, they would say that there were stories coming up about injured protesters hiding in body bags, pretending that they were dead just so that they wouldn't be shot. They said that they could hear voices of people literally crying out for help. They would literally shoot all these people, and then they put them all in a truck, and then they dump them in like an empty warehouse. They would lock the doors. They would not let any doctors or nurses to help them, and whoever was dead, they were already dead, and whoever was injured and they were screaming out for help, they would just let them die, screaming out for help in a body bag. So this is the stories that are coming out of Iran, yet we don't hear any of it on TV. We don't hear anyone talking about this. Do you know what a bullet fee is?
What a what?
Do you know what a bullet fee is?
A bullet fee is when they kill me and they send you the price of the bullet. Is that correct?
The bullet fee in Iran is when they kill my loved one, and then when I go to retrieve the body, they say, that will be $7,000, please, if you want the body of your loved one. And you'll be like, you just killed my loved one. They were like, yeah, to thank us, you need to pay us the money. So that's what the bullet fee is. They would be charging in thousands for families to receive these bodies. And what's even more horrendous about this is that in all of these videos coming out, we don't see the bodies of women. We don't see the bodies of children. Where are they? Where are the bodies of our women and children being held? There are horrific stories coming out. I've heard 2 of them, and I broke down in tears. I heard that they're opening the uteruses of every victim that was a female to check if they were pregnant. And don't be fooled, not to save the babies, to charge double the bullet fee. If they were pregnant, they would charge double the bullet fee. So one stone, 2 birds for them. And I also heard that the people that they captured that were still alive, they were given to these foreign attackers that they would bring into the country to fight the poor Iranian people. They would give our women and children as gift of war, as for them to just take with them. What country are we?
Here?
Pardon?
You're talking mercenaries here. They're bringing soldiers in from other countries to do the killing in case their own people can't do it.
Because no true Iranian would be able to inflict pain on another Iranian.
Yeah.
No true Iranian would ever be able to inflict pain. So it's much easier for someone who doesn't have the Iranian blood to come into the country and treat us like that. Not only they were not Iranian, They would be given drugs. They would be putting on drugs to just like there are videos coming out of this guy literally with a machine gun behind a truck or wherever he was, and he's killing people and he's laughing and dancing. So it's like, no, it doesn't make sense. How can you be laughing and screaming in joy, killing all these innocent unarmed civilians out on the street? So
do they know where these extra soldiers are coming from? Do they know what country? I just want to read out this. This is Daniel Murr. A friend of mine had 380 pellets in her body. They could not take them all out. They were scared to see a doctor even. I'm so sorry, my brother.
He's actually a friend of mine.
Yeah, so they're saying properties are coming in from Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria. So they're bringing people in from those countries to do the killing.
Yep. Because I even heard they're making them citizens of Iran as a reward, just so that they can come and open fire on unarmed civilians.
So they give these people their women and their children to do what they want with, and then they make them citizens. And all they have to do to get citizenship and that reward is kill Iranians
to put your hand up and say, hello, I'm ready to kill a bunch of unarmed civilians out on the streets of Iran. And they'll be like, sure, come on through. We'll also give you the women and children as a gift to take back with you and do whatever you want with them. So this is the horrific, events that are happening in Iran. And just like always, what Iran does best, the regime, is that they switch off the internet. They switch off access. Iran was in complete darkness for more than 3 weeks. Where were the activists? Where were the human rights activists talking about this? In complete darkness, like you couldn't even communicate inside of Iran and you couldn't communicate outside of Iran. So people in like my family members back home, I didn't know if they were alive or not after 3 weeks. It was 3 weeks of complete hell in my household because we knew the moment the internet would get connected, we could hear the news of thousands of people being dead, of family members. And no one talked about this. No one talked about Iran being in complete darkness so that they can just kill as many people and however they wanted. And, it's not like the United Nations is doing anything anyway. But how can you allow this happen in another country? How can Iran be a part of the UN? Like, it was ridiculous because I think during Mahsa Amini, if I remember correctly, they had a chair for women's rights at the UN. Like, is this a joke? Is this a joke?
It's an insult.
It's an insult. It's a slap on the face of every Iranian to allow a country to allow the regime like that to hold a seat at a organization that stands for human rights. Is this a joke? So all these Iranians, all these individuals that you see out on the street, they're coming out for the hope of just basic human rights. And when I say basic, I don't mean they say, oh, I don't like my car, I just want to upgrade it, I need to be able to afford. No, basic. Clean water, housing, food, education, healthcare. These are all basic human rights, especially in 2026. Like, these are basic human rights. And they came to the street asking for this unarmed. And what did they get? Military weapons. They got met with military-grade weapons.
Can you just put that comment back, Kel? There's just some huge comments coming up here. I just want to go through them. Everything she says is true. I am in Iran and I saw the government's crimes firsthand. So I'm not saying this because I don't believe you, but here we have people backing you up with this. Yeah. I'm still a bit shocked. This is from Jack Soy. So, Malika, do you support the current talk from the US and Israel for regime change in Iran? Would you like to see it? Well, I think it's obvious you would. But, yeah.
Can I answer that?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Look, it's unfortunate that we are stuck in this part of, I guess, the political aspect of this whole thing where a controversial country at the moment like US is, coming to the aid of the Iranian people. But what we need to realize is that us Iranians are fighting this battle for not only the entire Middle East, but the entire world. So when we are fighting on the streets, empty-handed, unarmed, and they're opening up, military grade weapons on us, and someone says, I'm going to come to your rescue, we will accept that with open arms. So whoever that may be, I was watching a video the other day. It was more like it was saying it in a joking way, but it was true. They said, look, Donald Trump said that he's coming to our aid. We thank you for that. Tomorrow, if Finland decides to come to our aid, you will see every Iranian holding their flag, every Iranian supporting them, every Iranian trying to be like them, because we simply cannot stand up to this evil octopus without military invasion, without foreign military invasion, because we've lost 40,000 people in 2 days. This is what they're capable of. So if we don't have foreign military intervention, whether it's the US, whether it's Israel, whether it's any other country, we're not going to get anywhere. So if you see Iranians pro-Trump, if you see Iranians pro-USA, it's because in the midst of all this darkness, someone's showing us light. Someone's saying, I'm going to get you out of here. Whether there is intention behind it, whether there is, when you're dealing with an octopus like this, when you're dealing with a terrorist organization as big as this Islamic Republic, regime, if someone shows you a dim of light, you're going to chase it. So if you see us calling
like
for
a
Trump,
moth or flame.
that's it. If you see us calling for Trump, if you see us begging him, is because we need his help. We need military intervention. This is not, again, it's not going to be something like Iraq or Afghanistan or all these other, countries that were invaded. This is not an invasion. This is military help. This is
a liberation.
This is not an invasion of Iran. This is not us asking to be invaded. This is us asking for military intervention so that we can go through this transition and not lose as many lives as, and save as many lives as possible. So yes, I as an Iranian, I'm definitely pro-Israel and America coming to our aid. So yes, to answer that question, yes. And I'm sure it's a lot of other people, no one likes their homeland being bombed. No one likes their, place of residence being bombed. We don't like war. We as Iranians, we hate war. But when someone's showing us a green light, I was giving a speech the other day in the city, and I said, they've oppressed us so much that we are looking forward to a bombing than to live under the oppression of these mullahs another day. So imagine the point they've made us reach, that we are hoping that a foreign intervention happens so that we just get out of this mess. So yes, we are pro-Trump, we are pro-Israel. Whoever's willing to help us, we are pro them.
What an incredible statement.
Yeah.
I'm just going to read out some other comments. This is from Aslam Kane. More than 80% of Iranians do not want to live according to Islamic law. They want democracy and freedom like Western societies, but they've been massacred by the Islamic regime for this desire. Mahaya, Johanian, I don't know if these are your friends. The torturing, killing prisoners. Yeah. Hello. We are torturing, killing prisoners as we talk. Jenny asks, how long have you lived in Australia? Since you were 13. So what's that now? So 6 years?
2011. So since 2011. I'm 28. Okay. So I might not look it, but I'm 28. So it's been about 15, 16
you don't look it.
Yeah.
But at my age, everyone looks like a child. There's, okay. Yeah. There's, it's very hard for people who have not experienced this sort of regime to process it quickly, because it seems, for people to slaughter and kill, as you say, they've been doing, to treat their fellow human being as though they have no worth or are something to be tortured and killed for some dark pleasure. It just leaves you dumbfounded,
Yep.
It just and the fact that we're ignoring it because we hear nothing from Iran either way. Most people wouldn't know what Iran looked like. We don't see any videos from there. There's nothing. It's been silenced off,
Nothing. Nothing of Iran. It's as Iran, or formerly known as Persia, it's an incredible country. We have 2,500 years of history. We have Cyrus the Great. One of the first ever human rights activists was Cyrus the Great. Can you believe that a country that invented human rights is now going through one of the biggest human rights crisis of that you can see in this century. And for 47 years, this government tried to wipe us off of our identity and try to replace it with this fascist, Islamist, extremist version that they are, but they never succeeded, because we are Persians. We are not Islamists. We are not extremists. We are not, we are not what the regime is. This is the true Iran come from Cyrus the Great. And when we call for a free Iran, we are calling for a free world. We are fighting this big terrorist organization that's funding Hamas, that's funding Hezbollah, that's funding, ISIS. All these major terrorist, groups that you see are like little students next to the teacher, being, the Islamic Republic of Iran. So if we are fighting for the same terrorism that's touching the soil of Australia is getting funded by the Iranian regime. Why is Australia not talking about this? The same flag of ISIS that was found in the cars of those terrorizing Bondi, not very, just recently, the flag of ISIS was found in their car. ISIS is funded by the Islamic regime. During the Mahsa Amini campaign or the revolution, during Mahsa Amini, our biggest chance in the streets, I was out in the street for 2 consecutive years. Every Saturday, I was out in the street calling for the recognition of IRGC as a terrorist organization. We were calling the Iranian embassy to be closed. We were calling for the Iranian diplomats to be deported from Australia. What happened? Nothing. For 2 years, we were screaming out on the street, telling the Australian government, look, you're housing a terrorist in your land. They did nothing about it. Until when? When
even
Israel
the Bondi massacre, they didn't blame. They blamed right-wing terrorists.
Yeah.
They blamed people not involved at all. The government wouldn't even mention it. I just want to see here, Majid. About 3 months ago, the regime brought 5,000 Iraqi men to Iran for this genocide, and they brought them in as tourists. So they must have been aware that an uprising could begin. I guess they infiltrate everything, as these regimes do, and they're aware of it.
And, as I said, the uprising ever since Women Life Freedom never really stopped. It was almost like this boiling water that, that just kept going. And then now it's, overflown. And now I think they obviously would have sensed that, people are getting to that point where another revolution is going to break out. And I think they were just trying to prepare for that time. But this time, the biggest difference of this protest, this revolution this time, is that we have a leader. Like up until now, all these big bursts of revolutions and protests that happen, they never had a leader. We never had a leader. The Women Life Freedom Revolution never had a leader. But this time around, the Lion and the Sun Revolution has a clear, set out leader, and none other than exiled Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi.
Wow.
So he is the leader.
Where does he live at the moment?
I believe he's in America at the moment.
Yeah.
So he's giving out orders to people, whether inside Iran or outside, that we follow his lead. So if he says you need to be out these days, we all go out those days. Like he's given a protest he's called for a protest for the 14th of February, which is just this Saturday coming. And I can guarantee you, every single Iranian outside of Iran is going to be in that protest. So if you are in that city, wherever you are in that city, make sure you join the protest, and you will see what the people are talking about. This campaign, this revolution this time has a clear leader. But really, I don't know how much time we have left on this, but really to understand why we are calling for Prince Reza Pahlavi to come back and be the leader of this country really goes back to the Pahlavi dynasty, really goes back to his father and grandfather and everything they've achieved, for Iran over the years. So when you think about Reza Shah, which was the grandfather, he ended the Qajar dynasty in 1925. So he literally rescued Iranians from the Qajar, from those, another form of terrorist, people. And between 1925 and 1941, which he basically reigned for, he made enormous changes in Iran. From infrastructure. When you think about infrastructure, the first ever trans-Iranian railway was built, connecting the Caspian Sea to the south of Iran, to the Persian Gulf. So imagine a country is now developing. You look at education and culture, like we had the first ever University of Tehran built in Iran. We had established a secular institution. We had a judiciary system. They founded the new educational system. Then, we talk about public services. We created the first national healthcare system. We built the first hospitals. So these are all, what they did was they mandated this Western style of dressing for women. So all these, dresses that you see, the picture you were showing before, this is as a result of Iran getting westernized during that time. This is back in 1925. People these days, now in 2026, you see, some ladies dressing like this. So Iran back in 1925 got modernized, got westernized, and they had something called kashf hijab, which means that they, got rid of their head coverings, and women were allowed to wear whatever they want, and they banned the veil, and all these big changes as a woman in the society. We had expansion of military during that time. Then we had, the first national radio stations were built. So Iran was really picking up, and this is again in 1920. And then the Second World War happens, and then Mohammad Reza Shah comes into play, which is Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi's dad. So during his time, which was about 1941 to 1979, when the revolution happened, his reign is most famously known for such a rapid modernization and economic growth of Iran during his time. So his achievements were transforming Iran into a regional industrial power. There were massive expansion of steel and, petrochemicals, automotive, all these companies were getting built. By mid-70s, Iran had one of the fastest growing economies in the world. Then you look at oil, national power. They regained effective control over Iran's oil revenues. Then they used that revenue and whatever the wealth they developed from those, they spent it back into the country. They spent it back on the people. That's why my grandfather was able to buy a 3-story house with a single income. They were using that money to really grow Iran. This is something that now IRGC is doing, but the other way around. So they're using the oil money to fund proxies and terrorism around the world, and not a single cent goes back into the country. So you see the difference, that the way that he was ruling the country versus now what we are happening. Iran really turned into this global energy supply for the whole world. And we had great connections with Israel, we had with the Arab countries, with United States, with all around the world. Iran was known as a great country. It was a holiday destination for people. And now it's turned to a terrorizing octopus that's the tentacles that just keep hitting other countries, and everyone's just trying to avoid Iran. So we had the White Revolution that happened. I don't know if you know much about the White Revolution. But it was one of the biggest revolutions, but it was called the White Revolution because not a single blood was shed. But there was a lot of major changes that happened in Iran. But it wasn't a revolution that people are fighting against the government. It was a revolution in the sense of so many big changes happened in Iran. Like, it's a very big, in detail, kind of revolution. So anyone who's interested, feel free to go and have a...
So you're saying we got time, right? It's okay. So you're saying it was like cultural and economic, so everything was changing. So that's what you're saying, is that's a revolution.
For example, one of the biggest parts of this White Revolution was women gained the right to vote. The first ever country that allowed women to vote was Iran, and that was during the White Revolution. So women were able to vote. Yeah, women were the first ever in Iran.
No one knows that here.
No one knows that. So women gained the right to vote first in Iran. We had the invention of women military in Iran. So women were given power in courts. So these are all part of this White Revolution that I'm talking about. That's what I mean. Like, it's a revolution, but in a good sense. Like, we had land reform. So we broke up these large feudal states and redistributed to farmers. We
Yeah.
had profit sharing for working, workers in the industry. Like we had literacy corps, which meant literally sending educated people to uneducated areas to, get them up to speed about things. Like it's
Yeah.
like big events. Like we had expanded the
So this
healthcare to
image here,
rural
sorry
areas.
to interrupt, but this image here, this is like, because they're saying here the shark, this is like the pinnacle of the white revolution. The women
Yeah,
were free to be
yeah,
women, to be themselves.
that's right.
And right now, in this revolution, they're burning the face of their leader, and all of these women are probably dead.
Honestly, no one knows. Yes, they most likely will be dead. It's, Iran is like a country where, if in broad daylight someone comes and robs your house, you go to the police station, they'll be like, oh, sorry, there's not enough security cameras. We don't know what happened. But they will find you amongst 2,000 protesters, covering your face, covering your body. They'll come and knock on your door and say you were in the protest. So they're
And then they'll
saying,
kill you.
and they will come for you, and they will kidnap you in the middle of the night, and no one knows where you end up. So this is like, when you think about, like, when I'm telling you about all these developments and how the country used to be to where they brought us now, you see
Yeah.
that every Iranian like me, I never met the Shah. I never lived during those times, but I feel the pain that they worked so hard as a family to create this dynasty, to create this great Iran, only for these mullahs to come and ruin it in less than 50 years.
And because the
To take
economy was
us,
doing so well, that is because, as that saying you said, if you want to kill a young person without killing them, remove their hope. But
yeah,
you're saying in the 70s, and this with the Shah and the White Revolution, the young people were given hope, and what you get one of the most vibrant, fastest
yeah.
growing economies in the world.
I'll give you two examples of two different interviews, right? Shah was talking, this is only like a small fraction of this interview, where he turns around and says, so what do you want our young people to do? Leave the country and go be talented somewhere else? You want our young talented people to leave this country and go somewhere else and live? Like, he was upset that we are losing all these talented people. And then on the other hand, you have the Islamic Republic regime forces that are coming to interview, and they turn around and say, well, if they don't like it, they can just pack their bags and leave. If they don't like this regime, if they don't like what's happening, pack your bag and leave. So see the mindset. Like, even the interviews, like right now, you look at Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi interview, every time the word Iran comes up, every time he talks about Iran, he tears up. You can feel him, the throat closing up. He gets emotional talking about Iran. And we have Khamenei on the airplane coming back to Iran. The reporter goes, how do you feel about going to Iran? He goes, nothing. So you see this family, like when they were exiled out of Iran in 1979, Prince Reza Pahlavi was very young. I think he was only maybe 16, 17 years old. So when he was exiled, he could have just gone to the land that he went to, and he could have said, you know what, stuff you guys for what you did to my family and my dad, and you ruined our life. You basically kicked us out of our own homeland. You kicked us out of the country we helped build. So stuff you guys, I don't want to deal with you guys anymore. But no, he spent every second of his life outside of Iran planning for the day where this regime is going to topple over, and that he can help people get to where they need to in terms of democracy. He dedicated his life to this revolution that's going to happen. So when we call him as a leader, ironically, people that were in the 1979 revolution calling for his dad to get out of the country are now calling for his son to come back to the country and rescue us. They're calling, this is the final battle, Pahlavi will return. So they're saying, long live the Shah. The same people that kicked out the father are now begging the son to come back and help them.
Yeah, they made a mistake.
They saw the mistake that they made. It's a historical mistake. It should have never happened. And now they're begging the son to come back. And he's got plans. This is not just something that we just created, that because he's the son of the Shah that we want him back. No, he's been working on something called the prosperity plan. And it's literally 100 to 180 day by day plan of what he needs to do when this regime topples over. So it's literally a transitional plan of dictatorship to a secular democratic government. He's got all these plans about the fact that he's got plans for the immediate aftermath of this regime collapsing and what needs to happen. Like the economy needs to continue on, the internal security needs to go on, and the stability that needs to remain within Iran. The stability that we need to hold to avoid these foreign extremists then coming to take control of the country just because now the revolution happened. So he's got a plan. He's planned, for 47 years he's been planning. So
I just
he
want
knows
to show
exactly.
this here. Yeah, sorry. Mary asks, I don't know if she's a friend. In 3 years, Russian-Ukraine war, 14,000 were killed. In Iran regime, 40 to 80,000 people killed in 2 days. War, this is what you're facing. Of course, we're not getting the figures. They're not going to tell us the true figures, but obviously you're close. I just want to ask you a few questions. One is, how do your parents deal with this? I mean, their hearts must be breaking when they're over here watching. And I think it's great that they're over here, but watching their country burn and their people suffering, it must be so hard for them.
It's incredibly difficult. And this is not just my parents, it's every Iranian
living. Bro. It's good to bring it down to a person,
It's like my parents are depressed. There is no other way of putting it. Like, we've devoted our lives to be the voice of our people. Like my mom, my dad, my brother, as a family, we have devoted our lives to not be free, to not feel free until Iran is free. So we are constantly following the news. We're, constantly trying to get update from the country. Like, every time that phone rings, everyone's hearts drop because we're like, is this going to be news from, back home saying we've lost one of our loved ones? It's devastating times, especially those 3 weeks where the country was in blackout. My mom was crying every single night. It's no joke not to know if your families are away, where your families are alive or not. When you know the amount of brutality that's going on back home, when you know how they're treating people, it's under this regime, it's really the matter of who's next. It's going to affect everyone. It's just a matter of who's next.
We've got a question here. What will it take to topple Iran's current government, do you think? Good question.
At the moment, we need obviously we have a leader for this revolution, right? So we need foreign intervention. So from whoever the country is, we just need foreign military intervention. At the moment, it's Donald Trump, because he made a promise. He made a promise to the Iranian government. He called out for the Iranian people to get out on the streets, and he mentioned over and over again that help is on the way. So Iranian people are looking up to Donald Trump for the promises that he made. And what really topples this government is pressure from the Western government, pressure from countries like Australia, countries like Europe, America, Israel. They need to pressure the government in terms of cutting their fundings. Don't shake hands with the bloody mullahs. Every handshake that you make is shaken on the blood of these people that have lost their lives for freedom. Do not deal with mullahs. Do not make, do not sit down with them and make deals with them. Because if you're trying to help Iranians, cut the fundings of these terrorist organizations, cut the fundings of IRGC, put IRGC on the list of your terrorism, just like Australia did. It had to take the lives of innocent people for Australia to realize what we were calling for just a few years back in Australia, saying, put the IRGC, the Iranian regime, on the terrorist list. So all Western countries need to pressure Iran into giving up this power that they're holding, to give up this oppression. And if you want evidence, if you want a way of how to do this, contact Reza Pahlavi, contact Prince Reza Pahlavi. He has a beautiful plan laid out in terms of how you can topple this government from outside of Iran. People in Iran have done their best. We've lost way too many lives, and simply we don't have the resources to be dealing with this government from inside of the Iran. So pressure from
Well, that's
outside.
true. But, I interviewed a Romanian woman. I don't know if this will give you hope. I years ago, I'm talking 30 years ago, more now, maybe 40. Um, I lived in a share house with a load of Romanian refugees because they were swimming the Danube to escape Romania. Ceausescu was still in charge. They had similar stories to this, and they said he will never fall, it will never topple, and it did. In my work now, in the last few years, I've interviewed Romanians, and they've talked about the revolution, and they've told me the difference in Australia between a protest and a revolution is a protest in a Western country. Usually you go out there, nothing happens, you have your peace, you do a few rants and raves, maybe you get arrested and a fine, and then you go home. She said in a revolution, because she remembers her 17-year-old brother leaving and his mum was begging them not to go. He said, I'm either going to come back a free man or I'm going to die. That's the only option. And
Yep.
she said that the soldiers there were shooting the people like crazy. She couldn't imagine the numbers, but I'm guessing similar numbers. And then finally the soldiers couldn't shoot their people anymore, and they turned their guns around on their leaders, and that's how it ended. I'm not saying this will happen in Iran, but it's interesting that there's often hope where there's no hopelessness if people reach their end, because it seems to me that these sort of uprisings keep happening and happening, and they're killing more and more. But there's a hunger in you young people. There is a hunger to live, to be free, to be, and the freedom to be you, to be
Yep.
Malik, and bring whatever Malika's gifts are to the country,
Yep.
so the country can prosper. And they're seeming to smother that. And it's interesting now how long they'll get away with it. It's if they're having to kill 30,000 of their people, you would think that inside most people there would be a spring coiling up, a spring of anger ready to burst out, and death won't contain it. You know what I mean? You might kill this, but this. That's all I can hope for. I haven't been in
This is
that situation.
exactly
Yeah.
right. As you said, people, especially young people, have gotten to a point
Yeah,
where
absolutely.
they're no longer afraid of death. They're afraid of living
Yeah.
under this government. Death is
Yeah.
no longer mean, like, imagine as a 16, 17, 18-year-old, you can see the guns in their hands and you're still standing in front of them. You can see that this person is right about to shoot you, but you're still standing in front of them. And the videos that are coming out, they're killing execution style. So most, if not all of these bodies that you see, the videos when they come out, the bullet hole are either right in the head, they're right in the back of their head, which would mean that they were probably running away from them, trying to seek shelter, and they were shot from behind, or they're right in their heart. So this is not to fire a few guns to get the people to be scared to move away and break up the protest. This is intent to kill. This is intent to execute. And no one's talking.
I'm just going to read this. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm just going to read this from Mary Az. She must be, I'm guessing you're Iranian. Our families don't tell us if someone is injured and have been shot. They are afraid of the person being arrested. They are treating people at home. Otherwise, the regime will take them and execute them. So if they're injured in these protests and get away, they can't even take them to doctors. They've got to.
No. So there is, from the stories that I've heard, is that doctors are in, what do you call it, working with the government. A lot of these doctors and nurses are working for the government. And if they see an injured person come through and it looks like the injuries were related to these protests, they would immediately notify the authorities, and they would come and either execution style kill these individuals, or that they would take them away and torture them. So that's why many bodies, when you see the videos come out, they have ECG leads on them. They have heart monitors on them. Who would put a heart monitor on a person that's already dead? That would mean they were killed inside the hospital. So they would come to the hospitals and kill people on the beds of the hospitals while they were attached to these heart monitors. People were attached to catheters. You can see the videos come out. People are attached to hospital gear and they have a bullet right through their forehead. Who would try to resuscitate and revive someone with a bullet through their head? No one. So that means all these bullet wounds were then placed after they were injured. So it's like that's why people were too afraid to go to hospitals. So they would have mothers laying next to the dead and lifeless bodies of their children till the morning because they were too scared to even let anyone know that their son or daughter or their relatives have been killed. You see images coming out, videos coming out of family members literally putting the bodies and putting ice around the bodies, trying to preserve these bodies at least till the morning to see if they can do something about it. Imagine laying next to the corpse of your loved one throughout the whole night just because you're afraid to even speak up about the death of your loved one. So,
Mary-Az, again, it's heartbreaking that our protests are filtered by the Australian media. They don't report them. We're ignored. You've been fighting for recognition now since you arrived. Why do you think it is that our mainstream media is not covering this for what's actually happening?
Look, unfortunately, it's very political. Unfortunately, it's very political, and it's all about trying to buy votes of people. And you talk about one thing, and without really naming names here, because obviously Israel is backing Iran up in this matter. Obviously, there is a lot of anti-Israelis that don't like this the movement. And I guess one of the biggest reasons that you don't hear about the media, or you don't hear about a lot of these pro human activists talking about Iran, is that one end of the deal is in Israel. If one end of the deal was Israel, I'm sure you would hear a lot more about Iran. I'm sure you would hear a lot of these, human rights activists. You see a lot of these people that are, ripping themselves up for other countries, saying that they're human rights activists, that they would also speak about Iran. But unfortunately, because Israel is backing up Iran in this matter, or USA is backing up Iran in this matter, it's a lot of political issues that come into question, and it doesn't let, I guess, a lot of our politicians to get involved because they don't want their image ruined. They don't want, to lose the votes of others who may be in war with Israel or USA or, other countries.
So your protesters, your brothers and sisters who are dying, they are just pawns in a political game.
Unfortunately.
The world doesn't care.
Unfortunately.
Marinaz, I hope I said that correctly. They killed my cousin, and they had to say it was a car accident. I'm going to read these out because this is what's happening. Yep. Over 330,000 injured are dying at home as they fear to seek medical attention. Another one. And if any of you people want to come on for a follow-up next week, I'm happy to get this out. The parents even buried their kids in the backyard so the government wouldn't take them. This is, I am so glad you came on. I am so glad you've come on to speak. We need to hear this. We need to hear this.
It felt so surreal when you reached out to me and said that you want to do an interview like this, because in the world where Iranians are dying every single second back home, and everyone is turning a blind eye to it. Everyone is, trying so hard to ignore it. You stood, with us, and that, you tried to hear us for what it is. We say 12,000, and the 2 seconds of media coverage was hundreds of Iranians have died. No, thousands of Iranians were killed, not hundreds. Between 100 and 1,000, there's a lot of gaps. There's a lot of hopes.
Not just killed, brutally killed.
Brutally killed.
Right. Given to mercenaries, to who the hell knows what they do with them. You know what I mean? This is it's just simply evil. It's beyond disgusting. This is just evil.
Unimaginable. If you think the world you're living in right now, it's unimaginable to think that this is happening on our, doorstep, and everyone's,
Yeah.
blind eye to it. So when you reached
Yeah.
out to me, I was like, this must be a joke. Like, there is no way that someone actually wants to hear about what's going on in Iran. There is no way
There's a
that
lot of
after
people who
a
don't care
month,
about that.
that there's after a month of this, that someone is finally willing to listen to what's going on in Iran without any censorship, without any, media propaganda, like really
Yeah.
listening to the voices that are coming out of Iran. And the voices are currently calling for the Prince Reza Pahlavi to come back and take control of this revolution and lead us to a referendum where people are able to choose their government. People have the
Yeah.
right to choose their government. This is
Yeah.
a democracy at its finest. He
The
never
right to
came and said,
live
I want
without
to be.
fear of the
That's right.
government killing you. The
That's right.
right to live in your country without thinking the government's going to
Yeah,
rape and kill you, throw you off a building, or just cut out your organs, or make your family pay for your
that's
execution. I
right.
mean, it's nightmare stuff. This is sorry, Kel. Where'd it go? This is from Hassam. I'm not very good with the vowels in the second name.
No,
Can you
that's okay.
see me?
You're doing Uruji. Yeah.
Urji. Well
Yeah.
done, Malika. Iranians inside Iran are proud of you tonight for being their voice. I want to congratulate you for being your voice too. You are doing an incredible job.
Thank
I'm
you.
just a little bit in shock because the levels of evil are just, especially to their own people, to their own women, to their own children.
Yeah.
Children. How you can, not that saying
Prominent.
killing an old man is any worse than killing a children, but there's something about children. This is your future of your country.
And you
It's
know
like
what?
going into a field full of wheat, and just as it sprouts, you just massacre it all and then wonder why you're hungry.
Yeah.
It
When
just doesn't make any sense from a human point of view. It just makes sense from power.
there is
You know?
there is a saying that has come out of Iran after all this massacre and killing, is that they always say I'm trying to remember the English word for it. When you
Oh,
pass, they put you in a casket. They always say that the casket of young people are incredibly heavy to carry because they're all buried with their hopes and dreams. So, like, when you think about that sentence, the casket of young people are the heaviest to carry because they're all buried with their hopes and dreams. So just imagine how many young people lost their lives asking for the basic human rights,
or just to
for
be themselves.
just to be themselves, to have the
Just to be
freedom to
themselves.
choose what they want, to have the
The
freedom
freedom to
to
choose.
wear what they want, to believe what they
Yeah.
want. Any normal human being would want it.
Yeah. I just want to read this. A mother went after her child's body. They arrested her and raped her first and then gave her the body. I mean, this is beyond animals. This is, yeah. Wow.
It's for, I guess, us Iranians, it's incredibly tough to watch the Western world sometimes do the things they do. Like, I was so offended this morning when I opened up my social media, and the first thing I saw, I actually had to take a screenshot of it. Someone named Antonio Guterres, I think, if I'm misspelling it, sorry, but he's one of the chairmen in the United Nations, and he congratulated the Iranian regime on because yesterday was basically tracking back 47 years ago. Yesterday
Yeah.
was when the 1979 revolution happened. So the United Nations congratulated Iran on this revolution. Like, what? How much of a bigger slap do you have to hit us with to not even coming up to condemn these actions, not even coming up to seek questions about what's going on in Iran? The only statement that comes out is him congratulating the Iranian government for this revolution. You must be, you're making a joke out of the people of Iran that are suffering. When
I
you
think
sit down with these scholars.
the United Nations is a failed organization.
Oh,
To be honest,
absolutely.
I've never seen them achieve
Absolutely.
anything great. Anything, yeah.
It's UNICEF, United Nations, all these human rights activists. This revolution really showed that no human rights activist stood on the right side of history. Not a single human rights activist stood with us in this fight. So it makes you question that, are you a human rights activist, or are you just an activist that only speak up wherever it benefits you? So
Yes.
if you're a human rights activist, you shouldn't have been silenced about Iran. You should have spoken up. You should have stood by us side by side, asking for this freedom. Because like I said, a free Iran would mean a free world. The Sydney Lint Cafe, do you remember the Sydney Lint Cafe?
Yes.
Iran
Yes.
was being. How many people were
Mm.
traumatized
Yeah, I know.
during that
It was
attack?
horrendous.
How
It was
many people were
horrendous.
traumatized during Bondi attack? Iran was
Yes.
behind.
The whole
So
country's been brutalized because just a touch of the violence Iranians are suffering from came here.
yeah,
We just got a
and
taste of it.
we warned the Australian government, we warned everyone here in Australia that don't mistake democracy for letting people walk, all over you. This is not democracy. This is like, you need to realize that there are terrorists breathing under your necks right now, and you need to do something about it. Why do we even have the Iranian embassy open here? For what reason? Close it. Close the Iranian embassy. Deport everyone that we tell you to deport. They have links with the government. Why?
Does
There
the
are people
government
that.
talk to the prince? This prince that you're
Pardon?
hoping will, this leader.
Prince
Has our
Reza.
government spoken to this leader?
No, because they're refusing to recognize him as a alternative for this revolution. They're refusing to recognize him as a true alternative, as the true leader of this revolution. Because if they did, if every country that Iranians are living in, when they're asking their government to recognize him as the leader of this revolution, we would have a much easier transition through this. But they're just refusing to do that. New Zealand did it. New Zealand announced him as the legitimate, alternative for this revolution. Why can't Australia do it? If you want,
I am an Australian and I do not know how our government operates. I don't understand our government at all. Yeah.
if you're
I
worried
wish
about Australian lives, if you're worried about terrorism on this land, Prince Reza Pahlavi can tell you all about it.
personally, I personally, I think the whole world would benefit from people just being allowed to be and live their lives. There are powerful forces always trying to pitch us against each other, to divide us, to create wars. Most of these wars are not caused by people like your parents who just want to have children, who just want to live, who just want to enjoy being alive. There's powerful forces all through history, but it's not generally the people. The people are just the ones that pay the price of these other people's lust for power with blood. That's the truth. I think of Iran because as Persia, it's such an ancient country. There's so much science that came from it. I mean, it was a leader of these things in ancient times, and here it is now, just slaughtering its own people in a way that we can't comprehend. They're like, yeah, your stories tonight, we need to hear them, but it's like having splinters of nightmares stuck into our soul, going, how could this be possible? How could they do this? And I weep for you. So as much as we can, I'd like to offer any support. If you've got anyone else wants to come on, if your father wanted to come on, I don't know what his English is like. But I want to applaud you for your courage for speaking. For those not watching, I told her before she came on, I said, I've been trying to find someone who'll speak, and everyone's saying they're frightened to speak because there could be repercussions for their loved ones in Iran. But Malika said she have to speak. If we don't speak, nothing will change. She has to speak. So it's incredibly courageous what she's doing here today. I don't have an audience to applaud you, but
Thank
we
you.
are.
No,
We are.
honestly, like I said at the beginning, the fact that you've given us this opportunity to be the voice of our people, the fact that you've stood on the right side of history today and really allowed us to say it as it is, it really means a lot to us because, like I said, everyone looked away. Everyone everyone, at least in Australia, looked away. And it's quite disappointing to see that, the government pretended to be blind when it came to the Iranian people. And
Yeah.
it's unfortunate, but I'm glad that our paths crossed. I'm glad that you were able to use your platform to be the voice of people that you've never met. But I
Yes.
can guarantee you that every single Iranian, inside and outside of Iran, thanks you for letting
I
us
don't need
use
thanks.
your voice,
I really
use
don't
your
need thanks.
platform.
This just has to be done. It just has to be done because it's just unacceptable. It's unacceptable for us as a human race on this planet. We didn't come here to be slaves. And
Yep.
I'll tell you this is not aimed at any religion, but I don't believe any God. And I believe in a God. I don't believe any God wants his creations or its creations to kill its other creations. I don't believe that God is behind the lust to kill each other. I just
Yep.
refuse to believe that. Why would you go to such if you're a believer in a religion, in a God, why would you create such beauty just to have us sit here killing each other sadistically over it? I don't believe it. I believe this is a darkness in the hearts of people, a lust for power, which is always going on.
If you allow me, I want to read you a poem
Sure.
from,
You
I believe,
Iranians are great poets, that I know.
yes. I want to read you a poem from Sadi, one of our greatest poems, which really fits the description of these days. I just say the meaning in English because I'm sure every Iranian has
Could you
has
say it?
heard of.
But could you say it in Iranian first or Persian? Could you
Sure,
say it in Persian first and then give us English version?
sure. It says Bani Adam a'zai yekdigarand, which means human beings are members of a whole. که در آفرینش ز یک گوهرند, in creation of one essence and soul. چو عضوی به درد آورد روزگار, if one member is afflicted with pain, دیگر عضوها را نماند قرار. Other members will remain uneasy of it. تو که از مهنت دیگران بیغمی, if you have no sympathy for human pain, نشاید که نامت نهد آدمی. The name of human you cannot retain. So this poem was written saying that if you can watch another human being be suffered and you don't even bat an eye, you don't even deserve to be called a human, because all humans are like part of one body. If your arm's aching, you can't just look away and say, oh, well, my eyes are fine, so it doesn't matter what my arm's doing. So this poem really describes that we are all part of humanity. So if one person's in pain, you can't just look away. And if you do, then you can no longer be named a human. And this is what's going on in Iran right now. Everyone's looking away. And it's like the heart is aching. The heart of this human is aching and everyone's looking away. And it's incredibly unfortunate to see.
Yeah. That's a beautiful poem.
Thank you. Yeah. It's a very, very nice poem. But yeah, we are all one.
Tell the group you work with, if they want to come on again, I'm quite happy to have other people on. I spread it out over a few weeks. Also, to other podcasters out there, you're always looking for new stuff. Well, why not talk to the Iranian people about what's really going on in the world and not reacting to what we're just being fed by MSN and the government? Why not go searching for the truth? Because I've been writing these in my books now, because people are buying books, and I've been writing this thing recently that darkness fears the light, and the brightest light is the truth. which is why we must keep searching for the truth. And so this is another reason I reached out for you today.
And I
I'm
really, really appreciate it.
emotionally exhausted. I feel in a good way, in a liberating way, but in a painful way, like you've kicked my soul all around my bus. but
Yeah.
it's been good to hear, just because you've given us an audience with true evil.
Yeah.
This is true evil. This is it. And
Yeah.
I am glad you're not there. I'm glad you're here to speak. I'm really glad. I would, only now
I'm
going back to Iran, I would be thinking, please do not let this happen to Monique.
I'm glad that I'm here, that I can be the voice of my people, but I'm definitely not glad to be waking up every day and living a normal life, knowing what my people are going through back home. So
Yeah, it's called
it's
survivor's
the life
guilt.
of that's right. It's the life of every Iranian right now. All my friends, all the people that I see that are from Iran, they're guilty of living. They're guilty of being able to live in a democratic, free country while our people are getting oppressed and massacred under a regime that just wants to show everyone that they're the bully of the Middle East. So I
Well, that's
do think
why
that,
all of you need to pick up, and you've done it tonight, the responsibility and the burden of being their voice.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
And that's
there's
what all
and the
these
more
protests
videos we
are
can
about.
get out, the more pictures we can get out. Yeah, we're going to go end with a song here, but I don't want to finish this yet. Javed Shah, that was
Yeah,
the first one you sent me.
yeah.
There's no English subtitles, so I don't know what it's about. So could you tell us what it's about? Because my partner was dancing to it; she really loved it. But can you tell us what it's about?
I believe the whole meaning of this song, Javid Shah means long live the king, basically. So that's what the title of the song is. And the first verses that it starts from, it says وقتی واسه غم نیست. So we don't have time to mourn right now. This is the time where we need to fight. So this is the whole aim of the song, that I know that our hearts are broken. I know that we've lost a lot of loved ones, but right now it's the time to fight, and this is the time to win our country back from this evil regime, and that long live the Shah, and that he will, the Prince Reza Pahlavi will be our the alternative leader that's going to lead us through this transition to a more democratic, free Iran. And the song basically honors him and says that right now, I know our hearts are broken, but this is time to fight, not to sit down and mourn. And there will be a time where we sit down and mourn, and we will honor every single soul lost in this path to freedom. There will be a time where we will honor every single one of them. But right now, we are in the middle of a war zone, and there is no time to shed tears right now. There is no time to sit down and mourn. This is the time to fight, and that's what we are going to do.
There's a beautiful way to end it. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we go to the song?
Just that, be the voice of Iranian people, please. Be putting pressure on your government to recognize the alternative that are people choosing from inside of Iran. This is not us saying it. This is not us deciding it. This is what the people of Iran want. And to recognize Reza Pahlavi as the alternative, to work with him through this transition and really stand on the right side of the history and deport whoever is in relation with this government. Because if you don't, the next Iran, the next revolution will happen around the world in places like Australia, and then you'll turn around and you're like, damn, these Iranians did warn us, but we didn't listen. So take
I have to
us as an
say
example.
that's the truth. That's the
Take
truth.
us
We're
as an
seeing it.
example. Listen to what we tell you. And yeah, as an Australian, just try to be our voice and try to pressure the government to deport these diplomats, close the Iranian embassy, and that to be the voice of Iranians in this transition and help us get our voice out there.
Thank you. Thank you for being so brave.
Thank you,
You are quite incredible. You're
Thank
quite
you so
incredible.
much for having me on.
You're a gift to your country. You're a gift to your people, and you're a great gift to your parents. Give my love to your parents. I understand that what them and your brother, they must be going through hell, and we can't help that at the moment. But we need to hear the truth. All of us need to hear the truth. There is darkness all around the world, and the only way to get rid of it is with the truth. So, wow, I'm stunned. I'm going to let you go. Peace be with you, and I wish you the best. I really
Thank you
wish you and the
Michael.
country the best.
Thank you for
Okay,
your
this is
time.
that song. No worries.
Thank you.
Can you introduce the song for us?
Everyone, please listen to Javid Shah by Shaheen Najafi.
And you'll dance to this. We don't know what it means, but this is it. But here we go. Good night, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Now, stay in the studio. Let's cut after this one.
وقتی واسه غم نی گرچه قصه‌هامون کم نیست همه خسته این قبولم ما فرصتی واسه ماتم نیست روشن میشه فردا خورشید سرزمین ما سرم باز و سینه سپر بلند میگم جاوید شاه وقتی واسه غم نی گرچه قصه‌هامون کم نیست همه خسته این قبولم ما فرصتی واسه ماتم نیست روشن میشه فردا خورشید سرزمین ما سرم باز و سینه سپر بلند میگم جاوید شاه روبروم یه واژه یه هدف به نام انتقامه پشت سرم دعای مادر و تو دستم تفنگ بابامه رو زبونم اسم شاه بگین عشق بی انتهاست هر جا اسم ایران اومد اونجا صدای بچه رضاست فردا می نویسن تو کتاب قصه دیمار بگو با تیر جنگی کشتن بچه های بیگناه رو بگو از بخت مادرها شیر زنا و دخترامون بگو تنها شهید شدیم تا تنها نمونه شامون وقتی واسه غم نی گرچه قصه هامون کم نیست همه خسته این قبولم ما فرصتی واسه ماتم نیست روشن میشه فردا خورشید سرزمین ما سرم باز و سینه سپر بلند میگم جاوید شاه وقتی واسه غم نی گرچه قصه هامون کم نیست همه خسته این قبولم ما فرصتی واسه ماتم نیست روشن میشه فردا خورشید سرزمین ما سرم باز و سینه سپر بلند میگم جاوید شاه وقتی واسه غم نی گرچه قصه هامون کم نیست همه خسته این قبولم ما فرصتی واسه ماتم نیست روشن میشه فردا خورشید سرزمین ما سرم باز و سینه سپر بلند میگم جاوید شاه